with Radiant Warrior Living, and I'm here today to talk to you about the proper way to say goodbye to 2019 as we're coming to the end of the year, and also setting intention for the new year. I'm sorry, I'm going to fix my camera a little bit as it is slightly crooked. Okay, sorry about that. What I find happens every year is that we all get so busy by this time, and there's so much going on. I'm not sure if you subscribe to the whole, commercial part of the holiday, especially if you have kids. It's hard not to. There's a lot of things going on. All of us are running around buying gifts, trying to organize, going to parties, organizing parties. There's a lot of pressure on everybody this time of year. And I find, and I'm not sure if you can relate, but I definitely find that every year it seems to be starting a little bit earlier, and it seems to be getting a little bit busier. And it's really hard not to get caught up in that part of Christmas, the New Year, the holidays, whatever you're celebrating, Hanukkah, or anything else that is happening around this time of year. And everybody is in this frenzy of doing everything that they're supposed to do, and feeling the pressure because it's the end of the year. There could be some deadlines at work, there could be some other things. There's also this feeling of the year coming to an end, and it creates a little bit of a stress, because some people are thinking about maybe this year is over, and they've had some dreams and expectations and aspirations that maybe were not fulfilled. As you're coming to the end of the year, you can't help it but look at the year, and sometimes look at the part of it that maybe was not fulfilled, or look at some of the things that maybe you weren't able to step up to or do, and that you always wanted to do. Or if there were certain things that you've said to yourself that you were going to do, and this was going to be the year, and it didn't happen. So in order to avoid this constant sense of void, in order to avoid the constant sense of void, in order to not feeling like you're lacking, or not feeling like you have not accomplished something, or you've failed, I would like to suggest a different way of looking at the year and what has happened. I want to suggest for you to take stock of 2019 and really look at some of the accomplishments that you have, and some of the memories that you have shared with your friends, your loved ones, some of the things that you've done that have made this year special, as well as look at the things that you want to leave behind, and look at the things that you want to take forward in 2020. I find that, again, most of us do not have the time, and it's really hard to commit to taking that time and carving out the time to do this work. What happens is that when the year goes by, and it seems to be happening a lot faster every year as we get a little bit wiser, and the time goes on, and when we don't take stock, when we don't look back, it's another year gone by. It's another year that maybe is not going to go into history as any type of year. And there's no sense of kind of taking stock, but also being present and being grateful for what this year brought. Every year has the good things that it brought, maybe not so good things, but there's always something to remember. There's always a memory. There's always things that you've tried. There's always things that you've done that you can take stock of. And what it allows you to do is actually see that how you're progressing on your journey, what is happening, and how you're moving forward, how you're changing as a person, how you're growing as a person. And that's what I want to suggest to you to do this time of year before the year is over. Today, we've got literally, less than 2 weeks left, and there's still time to really look back and think about this year. So some of the ways that one can start, if you're not sure how to do this work, is you can ask yourself some questions. And the first questions I suggest you can ask yourself is, what has been a theme, an overall theme of 2019 for me? And those could be, or what are the two words that come to mind when I think of this year? And it might be a simple question for you, it might not be a simple question. So if you have two words that come to mind right away, it's not something that you need to analyze and go into depth of your mind. It's more about memory. It's more about the feeling, the sense of what this year has been about. And I would say for me, it would be, just to give you an example, it would be creativity and inspiration. This year has been about inspiration and creativity for me personally. So those are the two words that 2019 would describe for me as. Of course, there's many other things that I have done and memories that I have that maybe are not covered under those two words. But as far as who I am and where I am on my journey, those would be the two words that probably would help me remember this year. I've done certain things professionally, I've done certain things personally that have been an inspiration and that have been creative, that maybe I have not done before. Whatever it is for you, it could be about family, it could be about setting up your business, it could be about maybe leaving something behind. So the year of moving forward, the year of rebirth. So any theme that really comes to mind, and it's something that again you would not need to really go into the depth with if it's something that comes up quickly. If you're not able to find the theme, it's not a worry. There's many ways that you can accomplish this. So the other way that you can ask yourself is, what are the three things that I feel proud of or I feel I've accomplished this year? So it could be anything from the smallest to the biggest. There's nothing really, and I'm saying smallest to biggest in your mind, because there's nothing that's too small or too big. Everything is part of your life. Everything is part of your journey. So what is it that you can remember, the three things at least that you want to remember that you've done in 2019 or that have happened or that created a certain sense of something for you, certain discoveries, insights. There's many insights. And when you actually sit down and look back and reflect, you'll be amazed at some of the things that you can think about, as long as you're able to take the time, and also a piece of paper and a pen. This exercise can be done when you have a little bit of time alone. Nobody is at your door. Nobody is at kind of rushing you and stressing you out. When you're stressed and you're in that place, it would be really hard to kind of go and go into that deep reflection. So I definitely recommend taking that time and closing the door in your room and maybe even contemplating what is it that this year has brought for you, and having a sense of gratitude around what is it that you've accomplished, how far you've come. When we don't stop and we move forward at the year end, we don't allow ourselves to truly understand what our life is about. And what happens quite often, and I myself am guilty, and a lot of people do the same, is that every year seems to be going by, and if we don't stop to do this work or to do something like this, to do this reflecting and to think back to the year and also to look forward to the new year, we don't allow ourselves to really truly appreciate our journey and our life. And that's what I want to suggest. It's so easy again to get caught up in the game of the holidays and what's happening around us, that we forget about our own journey and our own accomplishments, and also our own passions and creativity and our own desires that we want to bring into our life or expand or discover and to make our life more full. So there's different ways that you can say goodbye to the year. I suggest writing things down and really going through the kind of in your memory, refreshing some of the things that have happened. Another way to do it is looking at pictures of this year and remembering certain moments. Again, it allows you to go back and seeing the year for what it is and for what it brought to you. And again, every year has something to offer. No matter how amazing it was, no matter how not amazing it was, every year has something to offer. If you have kids, you can see the growth that your kids have, the progress that they have made, the growth that they have made, how much you have grown as a parent and what you've learned. So there's always something to reflect on. So some of the questions to ask yourself is, what is the theme of this year? If I can describe it in 2 or 3 words. Again, it's not a complicated exercise. If you can't come up with those, then just move on to the next question is, what are the best 3 things that have happened this year for me? What are the 3 things I remember? What are some of the things that I wanted to accomplish and I did not, or some of the things that maybe I didn't find the time, because sometimes we plan and things work out differently. So when you think of those things, maybe you can reevaluate whether it is still something that you want to take forward with you into the new year. And if it's something that maybe is no longer relevant or you're no longer as interested in, it's okay. You can move on and just leave those things behind, because you are a different person now at the end of the year than you were at the end of last year or who you were at the beginning of this year. It maybe has changed you in some major way, and maybe you have other goals and other accomplishments. And so letting those go, or understanding kind of what is it that maybe you haven't had the chance to step into or to do that you'd like to move forward. Also, I find a way to be honest with yourself, and also a way to learn, is to ask yourself, what are some of the things that maybe I could have done better this year that I can take forward into 2020 and really focus on. And I find a lot of those have to do with maybe self-discipline or certain goals that require more commitment, more focus. And all of us have those. At the end of last year, there were things that I wanted to do as far as exercise and my health, specifically exercise and having certain discipline around going to the gym or doing something active. And I still stayed quite active in 2019, but not as regimented and having a particular schedule around it as I wanted to. So I honestly look back and I think about this, and I think, okay, I need to do this better. So I need to schedule that more into my calendar. I need to schedule it so I know that it's coming, and I schedule all my work appointments and all the things that I have and meetings around those things, because that's a priority for me. So what are some of the priorities that I've chosen for 2019 and maybe have not made them a priority for other reasons, because there's always things coming up and there's responsibility, and oftentimes our own things and things that we find important, we put secondary if other people's priorities, especially people we love in our family, we put our responsibilities, our priorities, things that are important to us, we put them secondary because we feel that we need to step in and help someone. And so those are the first things that usually suffer. So, when you do that, you create this space for yourself to actually think about what is it that you can start in the new year. And you can always start fresh as the year starts. There's always that sense of hope, this sense of faith that you can do things better. And that feeling can stay with you for the year as long as you do some planning and some reflecting, and also looking into what is it that you truly want in more detail, and also specific kind of ideas and specific things that can be moved into an action as the year starts or prior to the year. Because January, and I'm not sure if you know this fact, but a lot of people sign up to the gyms. The gyms usually in January are filled with people, for example, and everybody is very hopeful. The New Year's resolutions are a big thing. But the issue with New Year's resolutions is that people look at them, it's more of a sprint than a marathon. So people jump into it with sort of that one idea, I want to stay fit, I want to stay healthy, and everybody's in the gym in January, and then in February those numbers drop dramatically, and in March those numbers drop again. So how is it that you can look at the year ahead as a marathon and not a sprint? So 2020 is a marathon that's coming. And how do you want to start that marathon so that you can have the stamina, the energy, the inspiration, and the motivation to actually last throughout the year and not feel like you've put in a lot of effort in the beginning of the year and all of a sudden you're burnt out because there was so much desire and energy and motivation that was there at the beginning, and then you've put your all into it, but it wasn't sustainable. So what are some of the sustainable goals? And we hear that word sustainable a lot, but it has to do with being realistic as well as practical, as well as seeing how you can make something last in your life, if that's a big priority, and how you can create the discipline and the lifestyle that will support some of your goals and some of your desires. When you're able to look at the year and see yourself not in January, just in January or February, or the first 3 months of the year, but see yourself throughout, and seeing how you can spread that goodwill and that desire and that passion and what you want to do, and make it last and make it sustainable in your life, in your lifestyle. The reason diets don't work is because the sustainability is not there. So if somebody wants to be healthier, it's about the lifestyle that you take on. It's not a short-term thing. And again, when you look at it more of a lifestyle. So what kind of a lifestyle, what kind of a life do you want to have in 2020? And how can you start making those changes? It's not often something that you can implement and just bring into your life, and it will happen right away. Certain changes take time. And also, to create a new habit, if you continue, it takes at least 20 days or sometimes over a month. So it's something that needs to be continually fostered and continually nourished and continually nurtured in your life, so that you can sustain that habit and you can create the supports around it, so that you can create that change and that transformation for yourself. So just to be more specific, when you look back on 2019, you ask yourself these questions, and then the next step is, what are some of the things that I want to take forward in 2020? What are some of the things that have been sustainable and have created something for me that I want to continue doing? What are some of the practices that I've done, the people who have supported me? What are some of the things, some of the experience that I want to continue? The next question is, 2020, what is it going to represent for me? What are some of the things that I've been wanting to accomplish for maybe the last decade? Because we're coming to the end of the decade. So there's an opportunity to start planning, a little further ahead and looking at the bigger picture of your life. I mean, you can always do that. Now that we're at the end of the decade, it's a must. It's a must to look at, what is that decade has been about? And, 10 years is a long time. And some of us have changed our life drastically in the 10 years. And our kids have obviously, grown a lot. And maybe our careers have changed, or we've flourished, or we've made some really drastic changes that we didn't expect to happen at the beginning of the decade. So looking at kind of the overall picture of your life, what would you like to see? And being honest with yourself about things that maybe you're not happy about, and things that you want to change, and things that maybe will be something that will take time, but you'll be aware of it and you're not running away from it. As much as it might not feel like something that you can take on right now, it's good to take stock of things. And it's also important to look at things in an honest way and say to yourself what's working for you to sustain you as a person, and what's not. Are there situations that are draining you? What has been sort of the most draining things that happened in 2019? Is there anything that needs to be let go into 2020? Every year we grow, and we also shed some things, and we shed some skin, and we leave things behind. So it's normal to actually take stock and make some resolutions, but in a way that would be, again, sustainable. So are there things or habits that you'd like to leave behind that maybe are creating a pattern in your life, right? We all have patterns, things that the behavior that repeats over and over. And there are a couple of videos that I've done on triggers and things that, are kind of this points in our life, or things that create those trigger points, and that other people sometimes press on that trigger that's already been there, and we blame them for something that we're experiencing. So what are some of the triggers maybe that you want to let go of? What are some of the behaviors that are holding you back? I know a lot of women who, are pleasers, or always looking after other people and always putting themselves behind. So it's looking at how much is that serving you in your life, and how much is that holding you back. It's also looking at some of the things, some of the patterns that have become a part of who we are, It's almost like that second skin that we wear, and it's hard to let go of. And maybe it's also time to ask others who we trust about things that they think about us, and sort of taking stock of maybe there's certain patterns that we haven't noticed. Or we feel that we're in the beginning of the year, we're always making all these different resolutions and making commitments, but we don't stick to them. So it's looking deeper into what are the reasons that maybe we're not fully participating in our life or fully stepping into our power. Why are we not keeping our commitments? And it's looking back at and saying to yourself, what are some of the blockages or some of the fears that might hold me back? So again, really taking stock of where you're at and kind of what's your location. Not geographically, but geographically too. If you've been looking at moving or making drastic changes where you're located in your life, but the location as far as kind of your place and how do you feel about your life. And when you take stock at what you want to change, you can actually start making steps and create actions on what it is that you need to change and how you can do it, without really taking stock in a bigger way and then having actions come out of it. It'll be really hard to implement something or to make those changes or to bring something new into your life in 2020. So one of the ways that I find is very helpful and creative is, and it's been talked about many, many, many times, is a vision board. It's a very playful way to look at the coming year and to look at what is it that inspires you, what is it that brings you that joy, that passion. And I have a vision board here that I've created at the end of last year, and I'll be doing it again. As much as who I am is similar in some of those things, but there's some new things that I want to look forward to and I want to inspire in my life. So there's many ways you can do a vision board. There's electronic versions now. There's apps on on Apple or Android phone that you can use to create a vision board. I find that actually doing the physical work when you're taking the pictures and you're putting them on the board, there's something about having your hands involved in what you're doing that creates that true connection. It's something that you can do with your family. I find that it really is an amazing bonding exercise with your kids and sitting down and doing it together as a family. I have family coming into town and we've done it last year, and it was an amazing exercise because it allowed us all to see how different we all are and how different are the things that we want. At the same time, it allows you to dream together. It allows you to share the things that you're passionate about. You can also do one common board as a family, and kind of everybody contributes to that board, and that way the kids also feel like what they want and desire and are passionate about or want to see in 2020, they feel like they're involved in the process and they're counted in. So it can be a really amazing way to just spend an evening together, an afternoon together, instead of eating or drinking that everybody complains about for the holidays. So the vision board you can always do at the beginning of the year as well if you don't have the time to do it at the end of the year if you're traveling, but there's many ways that you can achieve that. Another way is to basically take one of your one of those books or diaries and really start writing things down. And sometimes things pop into your head in the most times when you don't expect it. So it's having a little book with you where you can write your thoughts down on what you're thinking, but it's really putting that out there and for yourself to start really contemplating kind of the 2019. What am I taking with me into 2020? What am I leaving behind? Usually, in where I come from, sort of in the Russian tradition, New Year's is a big, big celebration. And the night of the New Year, we all think about, kind of what we're leaving behind. And there's usually toasts set around, what do you want to leave behind this year and what you want to take forward. So those are, the New Year's night, it's very hectic and most people are sort of on the spot thinking about it. But when you have a chance to contemplate on these things, you'll actually have a lot more awareness and it won't be as sad to let another year go. You'll have a lot more gratitude and a lot more awareness of what this year brought, as well as you can look forward and see that there's so much possibility that 2020 can bring to you. The other way that I also suggest is, around setting intention and setting goals. The first and foremost, setting intention. Intention is something that you can set at any point when you start a project, when you start your day, when you start something. It's really putting your focus on what is it that you're doing and why, as well as being very clear on your expectations and the outcome that you want to see. It really allows you to connect to who you are and your purpose and the bigger part of your life. So when you set an intention for 2020, it can be just a theme, right? So it could be something like, I want to feel expansion, or I want this year to be about lightness of being. Whatever it is that you feel you crave in your soul, deep at the deeper level of who you are, that's the intention that you can set for yourself. Or it could be a year of, freedom. It could be a year of having, peace and having, contentment. Whatever it is that theme that you want the year to represent, you can put it forward and you can set that intention. And then from there, you can start looking at what are some of the things that I want to accomplish, the bigger goals, and then the smaller goals. One of the ways I find is helpful is I have this little book, and every year, before the end of the year, I always look at what I've put down and where I'm at with the 5 bigger goals. And I also put down some of the smaller actions under the 5 bigger goals around what I want to accomplish. So what I find this allows me to do when I have this small book, I can actually track, so I take a page of this book and I would put the goal at the top, and then I would put some of the actions that I need to take, and then I leave some room to actually write down some of the things that I've done towards those actions. And I can watch my progress throughout the year of what I've accomplished and how far I've come. So one of the ways that you can do that is having a smaller book that you can track, and then having sort of a bigger agenda that you use for every day, or you write your thoughts in. So whatever way is helpful for you to stay on track and to also remember what are some of the things that were important for you at the beginning of the year and the goals that you want to accomplish, you can always refer back, and you can also track yourself and see how far you're coming. If you're more of a right-minded person, that you're not as organized with this stuff, you can do things in pictures. You can sort of have the vision board, but you can also create certain pictures or write things in a more creative way. But have something that you document and record that you can look back on. And very often what happens is that somewhere, throughout the year, maybe things shift and some of the goals are no longer as important, or they're no longer such a big priority as they were. So it's interesting to see how you change and these goals change. And it's okay to change it as long as sort of you're aware of it and you're not sort of holding on to things that maybe are no longer important, or your life has shifted and changed and your priorities have shifted and changed. So allow yourself some space, of course. But when you do those reflections, when you do the contemplation, when you have gratitude and awareness of what the year has brought, you'll look at things in a very different way. Your life will have a lot more depth and meaning, and you'll have things to remember that you've actually have spent time thinking about. And you'll look at 2020 with an intention of what you want to bring, not with a sense of fear that is constantly created by the media, by even the social media, where we see pictures of others, enjoying their life and putting their best life forward, where we always feel like we're lacking something in our life. So when you focus on yourself and what you want to accomplish and on your life and on your journey and go inward, it allows you to take that noise out of your life, or at least quiet that noise a little bit, so you can actually focus on what is it that you want to accomplish, what is it that you want to bring into your life, what is the life that you want to have. So I wish you all wonderful, wonderful holidays. I wish you all to say goodbye to 2019 in the best way possible, to remember the most amazing things that you've accomplished, that you've done, the memories, and take the best stuff into 2020 and have the most amazing year. 2020, 2020, may it be a year that a lot of your wishes, a lot of your dreams are fulfilled. Thank you very much for watching.